Hello, so this video is going to be a tutorial on how to use BlueJ, and we'll also talk about how to set up your folders so that you can store your homework assignments and your lab assignments for the entire semester. So after this video, you should have a good sense of how you're going to create your assignments, where you'll store your assignments, how you're going to write your code, and BlueJ overall. Okay, so I'm going to just start really quickly by hiding this. Okay, so here's my computer. Imagine that this is your computer. I'm using a Mac computer, so if you're using Windows, you're going to have to adapt a little bit and figure out how to do some of the things I'm going to do. But let's suppose that this is your laptop. Pretty basic and pretty simple. The first thing I want you to do is to create a folder that's going to store your homework and your lab assignments for the entire semester. So some good places to do that would either be on your desktop here, or oftentimes on your computer, there's a folder called Documents or My Documents, and inside of there would also be a really good place to do it. Now, some of you already have your own system for creating folders, and so if that's you, go ahead and use your own system. I'm going to create a folder here on my desktop. So at least on a Mac, and I'm sure on a Windows too, you can create a folder by right-clicking, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it CS161. for Computer Science 161. Open it up, and inside we're going to create two new folders. You can either do that by going to this little cog here and selecting new folder, or again, you can right-click. One of the folders is going to be entitled Homeworks, and the second folder you should create is entitled Labs. So for the rest of the semester, every homework assignment that you create will go inside of your homework folder. At the end of the semester, you should have a really lovely compilation of all of your homework assignments. Similarly, all of your lab assignments will go inside of the lab folder. And at the end of the semester, you'll have a lovely compilation of all of the code you've written for your labs. Okay, so that's the first thing. A few caveats. You should know where you created your folder. Oftentimes I have students who create a folder somewhere and they're not sure where. So when I ask them to open up their code, they literally have to go here to the Finder and type CS161. It pulls up the folder for them, but they have no idea where it's stored. You really should know where you created it. Okay, so if you created it on your desktop, you should be able to navigate there. If you put it in Documents, you should be able to navigate there. Okay, so we have our folder here. It's called CS161. We're good to go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a web browser and we're going to do a search for BlueJ. Okay, B-L-U-E-J. The very first link that comes up is bluej.org. Click on that and you'll see the BlueJ website. So this is the program we're going to be using to write our Java code. And what is BlueJ? BlueJ is a free Java development environment designed for beginners, used by millions worldwide. So a few things there. It is free. You should not be paying for anything. It's for Java. That's the language we're going to be using this semester. It's a development environment. So oftentimes you will hear the word IDE, which stands for Interactive or Integrated Development Environment. Okay, what that basically means is an IDE is a program that people use to develop code. BlueJ is one such IDE. BlueJ has been designed for beginners, which is perfect for us, and it's a pretty popular development environment. It's a pretty popular IDE that's used by a lot of people and students worldwide. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so you need to first download and install that. Depending upon your computer, you will either choose Windows if you're running a Windows machine, or you will choose Mac. You may be using Linux. I highly doubt it, but if so, there is a download for Ubuntu or Debian, and I've never had a student choose other. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video. You should click on your respective link, follow the instructions. It's usually as simple as downloading it, double-clicking to unzip it and install it, the end. Okay, so you should pause the video now and then pick up later. Okay. Now that you have BlueJ installed, we're going to open BlueJ. Again, you should know where BlueJ lives. Okay, so on a Mac machine, there's a folder called Applications, inside applications, you should now see a BlueJ folder. And inside of that, this is what you would double click in order to launch BlueJ. Yours probably does not say .app. There's something wrong with my computer, whatever. So this BlueJ icon here is what you would use to launch BlueJ. Also, you can drag BlueJ down to your dock, which is what I've done. So for me, I have BlueJ sitting down here in my dock. If you're on a Windows machine, I'm going to guess that there's a folder very similar to this applications folder where you can find BlueJ, or usually on a Windows machine, there's an option for creating a shortcut on your desktop. Okay, regardless, you should be able to navigate to BlueJ. Okay, if you have to do this, that usually means you don't know where it is, which is usually not a good idea. It's not a good sign. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna launch BlueJ right down here. The first time you open up BlueJ, it may take a little bit of time. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Okay, so here's BlueJ, right? We have this window here, and anytime you start a homework assignment or a lab assignment, you're going to create a new project. Okay, so you're going to go over here to project, new project. Okay, and you can give your project a name. If it's a homework, I would recommend naming them homework 1, homework 2, homework 3, so on and so forth. Similarly, if it's a lab, I recommend naming it lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, so on and so forth. So we're going to create a new project called lab 1. This is showing you where do you want me to store that? Now for me, it's already set up because I kind of practiced this video already, but for you, you'd probably hit choose. And now you need to navigate to that brand new folder that we created. For me, it's on the desktop, so I do desktop, CS161 labs, and hit open. Okay, for you, you need to navigate to wherever you saved that particular folder. Okay, so here we have, we're going to create a new project called lab 1, and this is where I want to store it. We're going to hit OK. When you create a new BlueJ project, this is exactly what you'll see. So this is kind of an empty project. There's no code here yet because we haven't created any code. You'll see that there is one file that kind of has this notebook paper icon. You can double click on it. This is literally just a place you can type words. This is not code in any way. You can think of this as like a really primitive Word. Okay, so this is just a text editor, a place that you can write text to yourself. This is called a README file. We will rarely use the README file, rarely. I think for the first homework, maybe we use it. But it is a nice place if you ever want to dump stuff, if you just want to type notes to yourself, comments to yourself, anything like that. Now, here's a caveat. I will not read your README file. So if you're writing notes to me, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to finish this homework, know that I'm not going to see it. Okay, so although you will submit the entire project to me, which includes this README file, I never check them. Okay, so it's a good place for you to write stuff, but I'm not going to be looking at your README file. Okay, so here's your README file. And every time you write Java code, it has to be inside of a class. So let's go ahead and create a new class here. We're going to give this the name hello. You can name your class whatever you want, although there are some conventions. Typically, the name should be one word. Please don't use any numbers, and it should always be capitalized. Okay, so I'm going to call this Hello World. All right, so it's created this little box for me. If we double click on it and open it up, we'll see BlueJ has added some Java code in an attempt to be helpful. This is not helpful. It's confusing and it's horrible. And the very first thing you will do is you will delete all of this. Don't look at it. Don't try to understand it. Get rid of it. Do not leave a single thing behind. Okay, so that's just get in the habit, delete that. It's not helpful. So basically, we now have a blank slate. This is a white sheet of paper where we will be writing all of our code. Here, all of these buttons are kind of typical buttons: undo, cut, copy, paste, find, close. These are kind of normal buttons. This is really the only new button here called compile. So I'm going to write some code. I don't expect you to understand any of this code. In fact, our very first real lecture will be analyzing this piece of code, but we kind of need some code just so we can run it and get a sense of how does this all work. So I'm going to write some quick code in here. Let's see, a basic Java application. For me, it's the 29th of October. All right. Okay, here is a piece of Java code. This is probably the simplest Java code you could ever have. Some things to point out. First of all, notice that this hello world matches the name of my Java class that I created. And that's not a mistake. If I was to change this to hello, okay, notice BlueJ is trying to be helpful. It's going to change the name of your class or the name of this file to hello as well. Okay, and so that's kind of one of your first rules. Whatever you call your class here, you have to call your class there. Thankfully, if you change the name of your class, you don't have to worry, BlueJ will change it for you. But you may notice that changing as you change the name of your class. Other things you may notice, there's a lot of color going on. So this text up here is blue. Some of these words are in red, some of them are in green. There's this yellow box here, so on and so forth. As you learn how to program, all of these colors will make sense and you'll realize it's actually a very helpful way for you to understand your code. And if you have an error in your code, the colors actually will help you pick out, I think something's wrong. Okay, so we've written some code. If we go back to our main project window here, we'll see that Hello World has some stripes. These stripes mean that your code is not compiled. What that means is you've written code, but you have not hit this compile button here. Compiling means please check my code and make sure there are no mistakes. Before you actually run or execute your code, you have to check it, and that's called compiling. So we can either hit the compile button here, or there's a compile button here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and compile the code. You'll see at the very bottom it says class compiled, no syntax errors. So that's good news. We had no errors. So we can now run this code. Now, what I expect to happen when I execute this code is we should have a little window pop up and we should see hello world printed on that window. So let's see if that actually happens. So to actually run your code to see what it does, you can right click. You're going to choose this void main string args and then just hit OK. And indeed, we have a window called the console. It pops up and we see printed hello world. That is the cycle you're going to go through like a million times this semester. Okay, you're going to write your code. You're going to compile it. Hopefully it compiles with no errors. And then you're going to run it. Rinse and repeat. Okay, if we wanted to maybe print something else out, we could change this. We could change this and we could do, I'm tired, okay? Notice that because I changed the code, these stripes showed up again, right? So I need to recompile my code. Every time you change your code, you have to recompile it. Even if it's just a change of adding a space, you still need to recompile it. Even if I just decide, oh, maybe I want to write my name out in full. I like to see my name. It's a good name, right? No matter what change you do, you have to recompile your code. So that's going to be the cycle. You're going to write code or change code. You're going to hit compile, then you'll right click and you'll run your code. And there we see, right? It's changed to I'm tired, so on and so forth. Okay, some last things that I want to point out. So there's two last things I want to point out. Let's close our code. We don't really need to see that anymore. Okay, this is called the console. This is where all of the stuff prints out. There's this little menu here called options, and there are two options that are going to be important or interesting to you. The first is clear screen at method call. Okay, notice that I have that checked. If I did not have that checked, so if I uncheck it, then when I when I run my code, notice that every time it prints I'm tired right at the bottom. Okay. After a while, this console is going to get really crowded with old print statements. And so that's where this option comes in handy. You can say clear the screen at method call. What that means is please clear the screen every time I run my code. Now, when I run this, it's going to first clear the screen and then it's going to print I'm tired. Okay, and that's usually much more helpful. This other option here, unlimited buffering, is going to be important towards the end of the semester. If you try to print a lot of stuff to the screen, okay, you're going to run out of room. And so if you want, you can choose unlimited buffering. That way, if you print a lot of stuff, you can scroll through and analyze what you've printed. You can see all of it. Okay, if you don't have unlimited buffering checked, then when you print all of this stuff, it's basically going to cut it off after like 80 lines, and then you can't see what you printed. Okay, so that's an option really for the end of the semester. It'll be more useful. Okay, so that's one thing, the console. Last but not least, I wanted to show you that here in BlueJ, we created a project. That project has a README file, and it has a HelloWorld.java file. Correspondingly, in the folder you created, you will see those files now exist. So here's my CS161 folder, labs, and here we go. BlueJ created a new folder called lab1. We didn't do that, BlueJ did. And if I look inside, I see my README file. I'm going to double click on that. There it is. I also see this icon here, this kind of BlueJ icon. Okay, this is what I would click on if I wanted to launch BlueJ and open up my lab. And we also see 3 Hello World files. We see a .java file, right? We can open that up. Ooh, I wonder if I can. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this is another IDE. So this is a different IDE called Sublime. This is a different development environment, and it's the one that I use. So that's kind of why it launched. But again, you can see the code is there. So this helloworld.java corresponds to this helloworld.java. And then we have some other files, helloworld.class and helloworld.ctxt that don't really show up here. Okay, these are kind of background files that aren't really important for you. So it's good to know that BlueJ on your behalf is going to create the folder, and every time you create a class, right, it's going to update these files for you. Okay, and if I quit BlueJ, a really quick way to open it back up is to just go to my folder and just double click on this BlueJ icon. And then it will not only open BlueJ, but it will also bring up my code as well. Okay. All right, so that's a video on BlueJ. At the end of this video, you should, at this point, have a CS161 folder, and inside have 2 subfolders, homeworks and labs. For this first one, you can go ahead and delete this. We're actually not going to use it, so I'm going to move it to the trash. And I now have 2 fresh folders ready to go. You should also have BlueJ installed somewhere on your computer, and you should be able to reach it. And then once you have BlueJ after this video, you should know how to create a new project, right? Where to put your project, and then how to go through the cycle of programming, compiling, and running. All right.